What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and this one break down what's going on with the overall market, what's going on with SPY, Tesla, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple more tickers. What's up with the economic calendars? We have some data that just came out, and also how the market's looking, in my opinion. Before I break things down, what's going on with the market, before I talk about what's going on with the technicals, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. So, anyways, let's talk about what's going on with the markets. Looking at the data thus far, everything was very close to expectations when it comes to the manufacturing numbers and the services revenue. But I just want to mention that we saw the 5-year notes auction a little bit below expectations, so that was a little bit negative. But besides that, everything else was close to expectations. Despite that, the market's starting to turn just a bit, and we're seeing SPY just like it's been range trading for the majority of the day. So if you look at the 5 minutes time frame, we've been seeing this thing going back and forth and back and forth. Basically, it pumped into open, shopped around the 200 EMA, bounced back down, actually broke below the 200 EMA during the final drop. It bounced again to grab more liquidity right up here before it started to come down again. Now it's starting to look a little bit weaker. On the 30 minutes time frame, I'm actually eyeing support at the 50 EMA. If this fails us, we have 475, 474.8, and then we also have those lower supports. So we could see, even a test of our 20 EMA if we keep dropping even down here. But I just want to call out the patterns and how it's looking on SPY. One could argue that we have a rising wedge like pattern that developed on it, and now it's starting to slow down. This initially was a bullish channel, right? We had this nice channel, but because it turned like this, you can actually redraw this as a wedge. So it started to shift, and this same thing happened to the QQQ and such. So basically, this is starting to break just a little bit. I'm not saying it has to crash, guys. Just getting a very healthy little drop and a bounce could still happen, and the market could still remain very bullish for the end of the year. But this is going to depend on the market structure. So basically, if we're doing this, right, we're making higher highs and higher lows, we're still technically on an uptrend. But if we do see a break from the rising wedge, let's just say it comes down like this, the question is, do we manage to bounce before the year ends and push back up in a full recovery phase? Right, that could still happen, guys. So don't turn way too bearish if we do see a little drop from here. I just want to warn you about that. And then at the same time, in order for us to turn bearish, you want to see this thing basically continue to remain below 476. So do something like this, fail to break, and just get stuck before it turns back down like this. That's the more bearish case. For now, all I want to say is that this thing might retrace a little bit, okay? But that doesn't mean I'm a big bear. It could still bounce in the future. We'll worry more about the bounce later. For now, just be prepared for some tests of the low 475s, and just be a little bit prepared for that just to be safe, guys, because of the rising wedge. So make sure you watch and see if we get a break of the 475s. We're just barely holding it. We're still above it for now. If that breaks, we have 474.5 coming next. Then we have a gap to fill if that fails us down to this like 473.5 areas in a bounce. So could it drop just a little bit? Yes, but that does not mean we have to turn to mega bears. Market could still bounce afterwards. It's very tricky, so just be careful, guys. On the QQQ, it's the same thing. We have a nice rising wedge-like structure that's now developed. This is developed into a rising wedge just from today. You could actually draw it more like that after we got this move. With that being said, if the QQQ does get a breakdown, make sure you watch this breakout area around this 409 support. We have 410 and 409. Even if it comes down, do not turn into a perma bear. Do not turn way too bearish. That's the trick in this market. If it breaks down, we could still watch previous resistance become support and get a nice bounce after that. So that doesn't mean that means that even if it does do this, could still recover before the year ends and get one more push. This could still be a trap, guys. So always be open-minded for that possibility. You want to be catching one move at a time, not 10 moves at once. The first move that could be coming would be like a little pullback. It's still a possibility. We're still trying to hold our wedge, but watch and see if we get a break. If we do get that break, we could be looking for a retracement all the way down to 409 before this thing tries to bounce again. All right. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla's still holding up nicely. Got a nice push up today back above the yellow trend line. Right, we had this historical yellow trend line that was acting as support. It used to be resistance, then it became support. It was holding this for weeks. Tesla broke below it, rejected off of it, and now it's back above it, which is a very, very good sign. We also have this orange line I had drawn out here. This was basically our previous resistance, and this is where Tesla's kind of like rejecting very close to this 263 area. So as of right now, Tesla will likely, if it's going to be bullish, it could just remain in this range for an extended extended period of time as time goes on. But if we do get a break below the yellow trend line, make sure you watch this trend line carefully. If we lose this, we have 260 as support, then 258. Could come down and then bounce back up and just push again. That's also another possibility, guys. But make sure you watch this support. It's going to test this. We need to see if Tesla could hold above this trend line. As of right now, it's holding up nicely. So we'll see if it maintains this range and starts pushing for a nice uptrend. We'll be watching this very, very carefully. All right, so watch it carefully, guys. We'll see how it goes from here. Make sure you watch the yellow trend line, see if we could hold support. And as of right now, it's looking quite decent. On top of this, we have Nvda. Nvidia is looking quite decent because of the fact that it's kind of consolidating right here. You could also argue that Nvidia has a rising wedge, but there's no sign of it breaking down yet. We could still see Nvidia do something like this, where it just uptrends, gets close to that imbalance. It came very close today. It actually hit 496.5. I was talking about 497, which is where we had this imbalance. So it could do this before it breaks down in just a little bit, kind of like back test this support and then tries to bounce. Just hypothetically, guys, that's just one example. But we have a rising wedge forming on Nvidia as well. So there might be a move to the downside coming soon. Could this thing hold up for another couple of days? It most definitely has the capability of doing so. It could attempt to hold up. It could try to push up nicely. But in order for this to continue, we want to be watching to see if we can maintain this wedge. So with this wedge being maintained, there's a good chance that we could see some buyers defend it, hold this wedge for an extended period of time before we get a little retracement back down towards that 490 to 488 area before we see a bounce. So make sure you watch that very carefully. That's going to be very key for Nvidia. Then we have Apple stock. Apple is looking kind of okay. So Apple had this big downtrend, right? Very, very big downtrend. We had a falling wedge, but it attempted to break out of it. It's coming back down for a back test. It's starting to show some life, but we need to see a change in market structure. If Apple kind of like bounces like this, you want to see it establish support at 192.5 and then break back. It needs to break 193.5. I told you we want to see this thing close above that for us to actually favor the bulls. It hasn't done that just yet. It may not do it today either. That's how you're going to turn a little bit more bullish. Hasn't done that yet. If you're bearish, you want to see this be a false breakout for it to just come back down to like this wedge right over here back into the range before we get some kind of breakout. That's like the more bearish case. It's trying to hold, so make sure you watch support at 192.5 and 192. Watch that resistance at 193.5 as well. Make sure you watch these levels, guys. It attempted to break out, kind of like failed right here and came back down. So we'll be watching to see how it goes. Anyways, that's it for this one. Watch your levels. Be very careful. We have rising wedges forming on SPY and the QQQ. They are holding up for now, but you just want to be very, very careful and see how we end up reacting, especially during the final, 30 minutes of the day. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla's holding up very nicely. It's showing lots of relative strength compared to the market. So just be very careful, guys. Make sure you watch your ranges, watch resistance at 476 on SPY with support at 475, and we'll just have to see how it goes from there. All right, that's it for this one. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Marking to the moon because the long term is still incredibly bright, and peace out.